Actually, the first part of this meeting is the business meeting of Alaska Common Grounds annual meeting. And I want to welcome everybody. My name is Dick Milius. I'm the chair of Alaska Common Ground. I have our board members I'll introduce momentarily here, but just quickly, I wanted to run through our agenda for tonight, which is, as I said, we're going to start with the our actual annual meeting, business meeting, including approving minutes, treasurer's report, talk about activities in the past year, talk about what we're going to see in the future, and a little bit of historical perspective about Alaska Common Ground, this being our 30th year. And then starting at 7 o'clock, we have Senator Minority Leader Tom Begich and Representative Ivy Sponholz both on to talk about what's happening in Juneau and what their proposals are to solving the state's fiscal crisis, and that'll be moderated by Cliff Grow. And they'll start about 7 o'clock. They're already on board. So if we get done with the business meeting sooner, we can start that part of the meeting that much sooner. I want to thank all of our supporters, thank all of our members. Those folks who are on who are not members, we encourage you to join Alaska Common Ground, or at least to donate Alaska Common Ground so we can have more events such as the one we're going to have starting at 7 o'clock. And plus, we've had a bunch of other events over the past year and have more events in the future. So please join up. Next up, I want to introduce our board members. I think most of them are on and they can wave their hands when I call out their names. Janet Bidwell is our secretary. Katie Doherty is our vice chair. Cliff Grow, he is a longtime member and former chairman. Bill Hall, Mary Lou Harrell, also past chair of Alaska Common Ground. Hannah Laird, Janet McCabe, Stephanie Nichols, Helen Nienhauser, John Parsi, Peg Tileston, and Danielle Williams. And there's a picture of most of us, including a couple extras who have left us from the board. And then Kari Gardy is our program coordinator, who we could not do anything without her. So that's who Alaska Common Grounds board members are. We also, putting on a lot of our events, we've had a lot of help this past year from some of our members, so we greatly appreciate that. And anybody out there that's a member of Alaska Common Ground that wants to help put together events, you're more than welcome to lend a hand. With that, I just want to acknowledge that about a year ago was our last annual meeting, and that was our first virtual event done by Zoom. And we were kind of nervous about how this was going to work out, but for the past year, we've done a number of events on Zoom. They've worked out quite well. Missing, of course, is the personal interaction that you get from in-person events, not to mention that we can't share beverages and food and drink. So hopefully we'll get back to being able to do stuff in person. But the advantage of this is that we've been able to broaden our audience to include people in Juneau, Fairbanks, Kenai Peninsula, and other parts of Alaska, as well as folks even from the lower 48, Arizona. We even had some folks attending some events from New Zealand. So anyhow, there's some advantages as well as disadvantages of this new Zoom reality, but hopefully we'll be back to some in-person events sometime within the next year. Again, the first part of today's meeting is our annual meeting. And with that, the first action item is to approve our annual meeting minutes from last year's annual meeting, which was on May 4th, 2020. Can I get a motion to approve our minutes, which Kari is showing right now?
I move to approve the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, the minutes are moved to approve and seconded. Any discussion or any comments on our minutes from last year's meeting? Hearing none, I will ask for unanimous consent for our minutes. Any objections? Hearing no objections, or seeing no objections, since a lot of people are muted. Moving on, treasurer's report. I have recently resumed the double duty of being treasurer. For the last year, Alyssa Bish has been our able treasurer, but her life became too busy buying a new house, various other things. So she recently resigned from the board, but she really did a good job of getting our budget in order, working with Kari. We're in good shape financially. Cash on hand, as you can see there, $21,186, which is quite a bit more than last year. So despite the pandemic and all, we're actually in financially better shape than we were a year ago, although we're a fairly small budget operation, as you can see, $21,000. To the next slide of our budget. This is our actuals from last year. Operating income, $26,594. A large part of the income, as you can see, is memberships. And most of our expenses were related to events. Moving on to the next slide is actually shows you the breakdown of membership renewals. Brought in a large or vast amount of our income is from membership renewals, you can see. So that's why our members are so important to this organization. Kari, we want to move on to the next one. And then this is a pie chart that just shows how important member renewals and new members. You can see 61% of our income comes from our members who are on this meeting, in this meeting, as well as some donations from and sponsorships from some generous organizations. A lot of those were specific to some of our events. And then our budget for this year, 2021, revenue, $29,625. Again, relying heavily on memberships, but also donations, sponsorships, and grants. And that last one there under revenue, Pick, Click, Give, is actually, a lot of those are actually our members, but Pick, Click, Give, we weren't sure how that was going to work out a couple of years ago when we decided to join that program, but we've gotten quite a few donations through Pick, Click, Give, so that's definitely been really helpful. And expenses, you can see operating expenses and event expenses pretty much split evenly for a total of close to $29,500. So that is a very quick budget report. Any comments, or Kari, do you want to add anything to the budget report?
You did an awesome job, Dick. But yes, if there are any questions from anybody, you can always put them in chat or always email me if you want anything answered. We'd be happy to respond to anything.
Okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to John Parsi down in Arizona, one of our board members, and he is going to give us a spotlight on activities from the past year. John, take it away.
Thank you, Dick. Yes, we've been lucky that we've had an engaged group of board members and general membership who've been excited about our ability to transition to the virtual world and to be able to do presentations despite the global pandemic that has limited the activities of many other nonprofits. So we're really grateful for your enthusiasm, continued enthusiasm for our programming, and for our board members who helped put on these events. As is highlighted in this particular graphic, our first two noteworthy events were on the ballot measures, ballot measure 1 and ballot measure 2, the oil tax initiative and the elections initiative. As you know, Alaska Common Ground has been at the forefront and made a particular goal to always provide information about these ballot measures so that the electorate can make informed decisions about these measures. And we did so again in October of 2020. And then we had a number of climate events that are still ongoing. But our first event was featured updates on Anchorage's green energy work, the Anchorage Green Bank, commercial property, assessed clean energy, solar for homes and businesses, and energy savings ideas for homes and business owners. We had representation from the Energy and Sustainability Manager of Solid Waste Services of the municipality of Anchorage. Shino is the representative there. Mike Spencer from the Energy Program Manager of Research and Rural Development for the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. Stephen Trimble, the founder and CEO of Arctic Solar Ventures, and Chris Rose, founder and executive director of REAP. At our second climate event, we discussed improving walkability and connecting neighborhoods that employ mixed-use development and our diverse transportation options. And we had representation from Solid Waste Services, from Chugach Electric Association, the Director of Planning for the Municipality of Anchorage, Senior Transportation Planner for Bicycle and Pedestrian Coordination, and our Transit Planning Manager for the Municipality of Anchorage. And in our third event, we had a number of different organizations, including Edible Alaska, Arctic Harvest Deliveries, Alaska Food Hub, Anchor Gardens, who all discussed food issues, local and sustainable food systems here in Alaska. So I think all those events are extraordinarily successful. And we also this year hosted a number of partnered events, amending the Constitution, Mission Impossible, which was an event that discussed the process of going through amendments to the United States Constitution. Again, as part of our goal as being a nonpartisan organization, it was simply these processes. We had a special event on trekking the climate crisis from knowledge to action that featured Zach Brown, a PhD, who talked about his experience and the knowledge that he's provided over the years of his work here in Alaska and elsewhere. The Color of Money, a discussion on dark money, which was a large discussion based off a film that dealt with campaign finance reform, and then a campaign finance, states' rights and constitution event. We also, as part of our process, engaged in discussions outwardly, again, in a nonpartisan manner. First and foremost, talking about our fiscal options here in Alaska. That has been a point that Alaska Common Ground has been involved in for, 2 decades. To talk about the need for Alaska to deal with the fiscal crisis that we've had during that period of time, and have been kind of at the forefront of having that discussion and imploring communities throughout Alaska and our state legislature to take action. To forward that, we also sent a letter urging the legislature to take fiscal action, including a revenue plan and some form of taxation as part of that process in March of this year. And in addition, we sent a letter to the Anchorage Assembly opposing a special election. We'd also like to highlight, if Kari can move to the next slide, some of the partners we've worked with. You can see them here, but the Anchorage Public Library has always been a strong supporter, as has the League of Women Voters, UAA, APU, SWS, Move to Amend, the Alaska Center, Inlet Keeper, Renewable Independent Power Production, REAP, Northrim Bank, Alaska Conservation Foundation, Alaska Humanities Forum, GCI, Alaska World Affairs Council have all provided direct support, or they've been organizations that we have partnered with to put on events. And if we move on to our next slide, we'll talk really quickly about our 2 upcoming events. The first is Healing the Divide, What Are Our Values, which we'll be co-hosting with the Alaska Humanities Forum. That's on Tuesday, April 13th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. That event will be a deliberative democracy style discussion where we can use the preamble of the United States Constitution, and specifically those key words, we the people, to discuss what are our shared values. How do we look to the preamble of the Constitution to create shared values in our constitutional Republican democracy to see where we ought to move forward as a nation in a time of particularly strong divisions. And then we have another climate action plan series on Thursday, April 29th from 7 to 8:30 on consumption and solid waste. And I think registration for both those events are open and they're provided in the chat. I think that covers it all. I just wanted to say thank you to all our members and to all of our board members who've done a hard work to ensure that these events are successful, that we're continuing to engage in critical conversations for the state of Alaska in a nonpartisan way. And we appreciate the support and energy that everyone has put into this process to ensure that Alaska continues to move north to the future. Thank you.
John, thank you for that excellent report. Next up is Hannah Laird. Hannah is the chair of our communications committee, and she's going to be talking about membership and some of the ways we communicate with our members. Hannah.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, and thanks for the intro, Dick. Like he said, my name's Hannah Laird. I'm the chair of the Communications Committee for Alaska Common Ground. First and foremost, would like to thank our members. As you saw in our treasurer's report, you guys, without your support, we would not be able to produce and bring the type of events and content we'd like to share with you all. So thank you very much. That's not to exclude anyone here that is a non-member. I will, as soon as I'm done talking, share a link if you would like to sign up. And then another item to note for current members or members who potentially would have signed up at our last annual event, which is a common time that people sign up, our membership renewals did go out at the beginning of this month. So if you haven't checked your personal inbox in a little while, go ahead and check for that, or you can always visit us at akcommonground.org to either become a member, renew your membership, etc. Moving on a little bit, we wanted to just talk about, and I'll see if Kari can go ahead and bring up the next video, but in 2020, one of our primary goals on the Communications Committee, obviously, our goal is to not only communicate with members and non-members alike, but also to market our events and really share our mission, vision, and values as an organization. So when I joined the board, gosh, I guess maybe it's been more than 2 years ago, we had started talking about creating a promotional organizational video, which really was born out of a need to, share with the public who we are and what we are. And of course, we can always say that informed citizens create, a more just and sustainable democracy in a soundbite, but we're so much more than that. We do so much more than that. And so we partnered with Jensen Hall Creative, who are also members of Alaska Common Ground, in 2020 to work with some of our membership to produce this promotional video, and we're going to share it with you right now. Many of you have probably already seen it, but hopefully you guys enjoy. Take a look.
Can we talk?
Can we talk?
Can we talk? We are Alaska Common Ground.
Alaska Common Ground.
We
are Alaskans.
Alaskans.
Of course we are Alaskans.
Who, since 1991,
have talked,
listened,
and learned.
who haven't always agreed.
Agreed to disagree.
but we share
One simple vision
That an engaged
Alaska democracy builds a more just and sustainable democracy.
We gather together
Alaskans are
varied perspectives.
of varied perspectives.
Of all perspectives.
United in finding solutions to
Our most
Pressing issues.
From the Permanent Fund
To healthcare.
climate change.
To housing.
Alaska Common Ground provides a forum,
A welcome place to debate.
To share ideas.
To share solutions.
solutions,
To find
common ground.
To find common ground.
We bring people together to listen to one another.
We put the non.
in non-partisan.
We don't endorse
Political candidates. Our members include
Alaska's founding fathers,
And founding mothers.
And the next generation of Alaska's movers and shakers.
movers, and shakers. Through windfalls,
And recalls.
pipelines.
and pandemics.
Alaska Common Ground remains committed.
To keeping the conversation going.
So,
Can we talk?
We want to hear your voice.
Your voice.
Join the conversation.
Visit our Facebook
Our website,
akcommonground.org.
Or remember us when it's time to pick, click, and give.
invest in an informed Alaska.
Become engaged.
Become a member.
because we believe
In an increasingly polarized world.
Alaskans.
Can still find common ground.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Kari. And I know that video doesn't always share the best over Zoom meetings, so I'm going to go ahead and chat the link to our YouTube channel below if anyone wants to share the video. Just a great piece of information to put out there on the digital world. If anyone you know has questions about who we are, what we are, please feel free to direct them to that video. And then again, just really want to thank everyone who participated as a new board member. It was a great opportunity for me to meet founding members, current members. It was just a great experience overall. And I know that people really took their time out of their weekend to come on set and shoot. So sincerely thank all of you for your participation in that. And then moving on, just wanted to announce that 2021, we are moving into our 30th anniversary year. So Kari's going to go ahead and share our new graphic. You'll start to see this on many communications materials coming out over the next calendar year. We hope to be able to have a few events, and ideally this fall, we'd love to celebrate our membership with some type of an event. It could still be virtually, as we know we're checking on, situations evolving with the pandemic daily, but please keep your eyes peeled for that, and as well as any sort of communications that focus on our past and our future. So much of what we're going to be talking about over the next year involves where we've been and where we're headed in the future. And then finally, I just wanted to invite everybody here tonight, because this is our annual meeting, and of course our membership is who makes this all possible. We would love to hear from you. We're going to download the chat. So if anyone has any comments they'd like to share open-ended, I might not be able to respond to them immediately in chat, but like I said, we'll download it at the end of this meeting. We'd love to hear back from our membership, what type of events you liked last year, potentially some topic areas we might want to cover in the coming year, anything that you think we could focus more on, things that maybe were less useful for you. Again, very open-ended, but please feel free to use that chat section. And that concludes my section.
Thank you, Hannah. Next up is a historical perspective. As Hannah mentioned, this is our 30th year, and no better person to talk about our past is somebody who's been with Alaska Common Ground for 30 years. And Peg Tileston, take it away.
Thank you. It's so good to see everyone. Thank you for joining us. When Alaska Common Ground was established in 1991, the state was facing a number of opportunities and challenges. On one hand, oil was flowing through the pipeline and money was accumulating into the state coffers. On the other hand, a major banking crisis had caused many Alaskans to lose their homes and a number of businesses to close. Also, the Exxon Valdez oil spill had devastated the fishing industry and many coastal communities. All this was capped by a wild gubernatorial election when Wally Hickel, who was running as an independent, stole the lieutenant governor away from Republican Arlis Sturgielewski, who, by the way, was a Common Ground member, just weeks before the election, throwing everything into chaos and confusion. The result was that Hickel won by 38.9% of the vote. Esther Wernicke, who had a long career of public service and community engagement, was appalled that the state would have leadership that was represented by such a small percentage of the voters. Never one to shirk from a challenge, Esther decided the state needed a group of citizens that would focus on building consensus on matters of importance to Alaskans. She felt strongly that public policy was too important to leave in the hands of politicians, that the voices of Alaskan citizens must be heard. And so Alaska Common Ground was born. The first forum that we had was in 1992 and focused on state fiscal problems. We have presented at least 23 fiscal forums since then, and a number of white papers also. Since the state leadership has continued to lack financial discipline. In addition, many other public policy issues facing Alaskans have been addressed in a non-confrontational manner in an effort to find consensus. We have brought Alaskans together to examine rising costs of health care, the inequalities of criminal justice system, explaining various ballot initiatives, problems caused by gaps between urban and rural policies and the economic role of tourism in the state, to mention just a few of the issues that we've covered. Many of these presentations and others can be viewed on our website. We urge you to take advantage of these opportunities. This and more has been accomplished because of the dedication and generosity of you, our members. Some of you have been part of Alaska Common Ground since its organizational meeting. It's been a busy 30 years, and we continue to be guided by the vision of Esther Wernicke and the words of Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world, and indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
Thank you, Peg. Next up is Stephanie Nichols, who will talk about Alaska Common Ground looking forward. Stephanie?
Thank you, Dick. I'm Stephanie Nichols, as Dick mentioned, and I've been with the board now for several years. And this is a perfect, thank you, Peg, for that, for the history. And as we think about moving forward, there's two things in particular that I want to mention this evening. First, I think it goes without saying that we've all been through a lot this past year. I don't think we have enough hours in the night to unpack all the different ways that we've been impacted by things this past year, whether that be the pandemic, also the events of this past summer with the killing of George Floyd and other similar events. And where again, the stark reality, I guess, of racial injustice and systemic racism in this country has been highlighted for us once again. And it continues to be, and it's certainly an issue that we cannot ignore, and we should not ignore it. And so throughout this past year, our board has taken a much more intentional and conscious approach to improving not only the diversity of our board, but also of our membership. And we're aware that our board and nor our membership reflects really the diversity of our many communities throughout Alaska. And we're looking at this holistically, not just in terms of board and membership, but also at the events that we offer, the issues that we discuss, the panelists and speakers that we invite to talk and share with us on these topics that invite all of us, or impact all of us. And when we were putting together the meeting for tonight, we really intentionally wanted to mention this here. And the reason is that there's many reasons, but one in particular is that we want to invite all of you into this conversation and this dialogue with us. We want you to hold us accountable as board members. And our hope is that our conversation and our dialogue on this topic will lead to action, where we can take some action to advance the mission and values of this organization and to create membership and a board that looks and reflects more the diversity of our wonderful state that we call home. And one thing I also want to mention, and Dick referred to it in his opening remarks, one of the things, I guess, if there's a silver lining in the pandemic and us moving remote, is that we've been able to expand our geographic representation at these events and in our meetings. It's obviously much easier for folks outside of the Anchorage area to participate virtually. And so, and Dick mentioned several communities from wide across Alaska that have been able to participate in our events this past year. And we intend and hope to be able to continue to build upon that even after the pandemic abates. So with that, on this particular topic, the thing that I want to just reiterate is we invite you to this conversation. We invite you to be a part of the dialogue. We ask you to hold us accountable, and we want to work together with you as we try to find some solutions for these very real problems that we face in our society. And the second thing I want to mention refers to our 30th anniversary. It's a topic related to that, and that's been mentioned a couple times tonight, and I think that's just really exciting. I don't think there's many organizations that can say they've been around for for 30 years and be thriving, even in the way that we have, and even particularly during this pandemic as well. But in light of that, we are pleased to announce that thanks to a generous leadership gift from one of our board members, we're in a position to start a legacy fund for Alaska Common Ground. And we're very much in the preliminary stages of developing this, but we're grateful for this opportunity to help us build and sustain Alaska Common Ground into the future. And so as soon as we have the fund set up, we'll be sure to let you know, but we wanted to mention it here tonight so that you can stay tuned for future announcements and opportunities related to that. So it's exciting. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Dick.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that excellent talk about the future. And that concludes our annual meeting program. And if you have any comments, suggestions, put those in the chat. And with that, I will officially conclude that part of the